If your sale falls through, estate agents will usually say it came out of nowhere, no one could have seen it coming. But they are wrong. The truth is, the buyers who collapse sales are almost always waving red flags from day one. I've sold over 500 homes and dealt with thousands of buyers, and I've seen the same patterns repeat over and over. And so in this video, I'm going to show you the 7 red flags that tell you a buyer can't be trusted. Now, sometimes a red flag buyer is your only option, so I'll give you my playbook for dealing with one as safely as possible. And we'll start here because I want to show you the legal quirk that causes all these problems and lets buyers get away with all this bad behavior in the first place. So an accepted offer is legally nothing. Your buyer can reduce that offer or walk away entirely with no penalty and no consequences right up until the sale exchanges, which comes right at the end. And here's the thing, the average sale now takes 17 weeks from offer acceptance to exchange. And this matters because a dishonest buyer's entire game is played inside that gap. So let me show you the red flags that might tip you off to the fact a particular buyer should not be trusted. Flag number 1, your buyer is a property investor. Now, hold on a second. That is not a crime. Plenty of investors are perfectly decent individuals. And so why is it our first flag? Well, it's because it changes the game you're in. For a property investor, this purchase is purely financial, and their profit literally comes from how little they can get away with paying you for your home. And so naturally, they have a bunch of tactics they will use to stack the odds in their favor and try and get a better deal at your expense. And so I put this as the first flag, not because being an investor is a crime, but because I use it to put myself on high alert, and it will make me look more closely at a lot of the other red flags. Now, to be clear, they still apply to all the other buyers as well. Next, there is a version of this that has all the same problems, but that's even worse than an investor. It's someone who isn't buying your house at all. If you fall for this one, your house can sit sold for months, going nowhere before you're back at square one with a stale listing later on. They're called deal sources or property sources. They are wannabe property investors who don't have the money themselves, so instead they find houses to buy for other investors. These characters basically tend to end up blagging you and your estate agent and even their buyer to try and hopefully get a deal over the line so they can make a couple of grand out of it. I don't entertain these people when I'm selling properties, full stop. And you can expose them with one question: whose name will be on the contract? If it is not them, I'm out. Like, yes, there might be some genuine ones out there, but they are few and far between. I'm so tired of these folks and just would not entertain them in a sale. We've had so many problems in the past. So moving on, the next red flag is exactly how sellers get talked into selling for less or end up not selling at all. And here's what it looks like. So I'm going to give you 5 things to look out for from a buyer. So number 1, they try and get too friendly at a viewing. They try and find out what price you need. They want to swap phone numbers with you. They make you an offer directly, or they quietly badmouth your estate agent to you. These are all different costumes, but it's the same character. It's someone trying to get around your estate agent and straight to you. And so why have they got to do that? Estate agents are easy to deal with. If you want to buy a house, you ring up and make an offer and it's done. Well, there are 3 reasons a buyer might try and get around your estate agent. So number 1, they dodge the competition. If they can do a deal with you, they won't have to compete against any other buyer who pushed the price up. And so they get a better deal because you got a lower selling price. Number 2, they dodge the vetting. The agent who'd ask the awkward questions about where the money is coming from and if they're good for it. So you end up with a less stable buyer. Number 3, some are also eyeing the agent's fee. If you got, say, £3,000 less to pay in estate agent fees, it's £3,000 less they can get away with paying you for your home. And so every route around your agent serves them, not you. And so one line deals with all of it. You just say, the agent handles that for me. Every approach, every offer, straight back through the estate agent. Now, to be clear, I am not some huge advocate of estate agents. Agents are a nightmare for 100 reasons, and it's a topic for another video. But even so, for most people, you're way safer having your agent in control than handing the reins over to a buyer. And speaking of vetting buyers, here is a claim that should make your ears prick up as well. I'm a cash buyer. Now, everyone wants a cash buyer. They don't need mortgages, so they can complete faster. There's less chance of a sale falling through and so on. And so as a result, cash buyers often get better deals. And that's exactly why many people who aren't cash buyers will tell you they are. And I've seen for years people declare cash up front and then scurry around behind the scenes trying to figure out how they'll actually finance a purchase. So here's a real example. A buyer purchasing with a so-called business partner. He shows a bank statement with £200,000 cash, sat in the partner's account. What actually happened was the partner quietly disappeared one day later after he's helped his mate out with the proof of funds. And now this guy's scratching around to try and find a new investor or quietly try and get a mortgage offer in place. These people are out there. And another one, it's like my personal favorite. They say, I'm buying with cash. And then you drill into it and it's cash from the proceeds of another sale. So they're in a chain. And so you might now be depending on multiple buyers or even multiple mortgages. And so to me, when you hear a cash buyer, it is a red flag and I want to drill into it. And for me, it means your agent has seen money sitting in the account of the person who's buying your home. That's it. Plus explicit confirmation from them that there's no mortgage application anywhere in the picture either. Anything less is not cash. It is a claim designed to mislead you into taking a lower offer or ignoring a different buyer altogether. Now, the next flag is kind of the cruelest one because it arrives looking like the best news you've had all year. So let's say you have a bidding war and one buyer goes miles above everyone else and it feels like the jackpot. But remember what we said earlier, that offer costs them nothing and there's nothing to stop them changing it later. And so here is the playbook I've seen buyers, particularly investors, run in bidding wars over and over again. So step 1, overbid to kill off the competition. 2, get the offer accepted. Sit tight for 3 months, by which time your other buyers have moved on and you're sick of the process, and then cut the price to what they really wanted to pay all along. And I'll give you what I feel is a blatant example of this from this month. So we had a property with 40 viewings on multiple offers and the best one was £5,000 above the rest. Then one investor comes in 21 grand above that, approaching the sellers directly as well, by the way, which is another red flag. So out of everyone who's seen this house, nobody thinks it's worth that except the one person whose job is literally buying houses for less than they're worth. And so sometimes when you get that jackpot offer, it's not a windfall, it's like a lie sticking out like a sore thumb. And this is why as a seller, I have actually always hated having bidding wars on my own properties. It's because you don't usually end up with the best offer or the best buyer. You often just end up with the most dishonest one, meaning you will very likely have the inevitable price reduction that comes later on. Now, you might think if that happens to you, you wouldn't take the lower offer. But here's what I've seen over years and years of doing this. No one thinks they would take the lower price if a buyer tries and knocks the price down. But the truth is 75% of people actually accept the reduced offer. They're tired. The agent's telling them every other buyer will do the same after survey anyway. They're exhausted of the whole process. Like, buyers do this because it works extremely well. So be wary of that standout offer. I'll show you later what to do to vet them. But moving on, buyers will often try and sweeten the deal even further for you, which brings us to the next flag, which is I'll put £5,000 down as a deposit. We can exchange in 4 weeks. Everything you want to hear. But here's the problem with these promises. In property, promises are free. Nothing happens if they aren't delivered on. And we've seen this enough times. Those deposit deals a buyer suggests will usually die in legal knots. Solicitors hate them. They end up haggling over terms. Weeks pass and the money almost never lands. They're a nightmare. If they worked, everyone would be using them, but they don't. There's a whole bunch of problems with them. And the investor who's telling you they'll do a £5,000 deposit almost certainly knows that as well. And as for promises about 4-week exchanges and things, we had this week. 4-week exchange promised by a buyer who needed 2 mortgages. Mortgage on his existing property and a mortgage on a new property, and he had no idea where the seller's legal pack was either, so he couldn't account for the dates he was promising. So at worst, he's lying about his intentions to try and sway the seller to accept his offer, but even at best, he's just got no basis to promise what he's saying. And so if your buyer is over promising from the time the sale's agreed or when they're even submitting an offer, good luck working with them for the next 17 weeks or however long it's going to take and expecting them to deliver in that time. And so moving on to the last flag, and it's the quiet one. It's not something they do, it's something they don't do. It's once the sale is agreed, a week goes by, 2 weeks, and no surveys booked. Now, a genuine buyer wants the doubt gone fast. There's no reason not to get a survey out of the way. And so a buyer who's saving the survey is usually saving a weapon that they plan to wield against you. Because the fact is, the later the survey lands in the process, the more likely most sellers are to accept a lower offer. And the numbers back this up. According to the survey we quoted earlier by House Buyer Bureau, almost a third of sellers get hit with a lower offer after the sale's agreed. A third of those cut cuts land within a week of exchange. So last minute, highly deliberate when there's maximum exhaustion, maximum pressure. And the third one, here's the kind of part that proves the tactic. In 1 in 5 cases, there was no survey issue, no down valuation, nothing. Seemed the buyers were just trying it on. And so having no survey booked isn't a sign of a relaxed buyer. It's more likely a buyer keeping his powder dry, waiting for the best time to strike, right? So we've got 7 red flags we can use to spot potentially untrustworthy buyers. But what if a flag waving buyer is the only one you've got? Well, here is a 5-part playbook. I'm going to rattle through this quite quickly because I've got a whole video on part of my process for stopping sales falling through. I'll link to it at the end. So number 1, everything goes through the estate agent. Every approach, every offer, no exceptions. We just say the agent handles it for me. That's all you got to say to stop them trying to get their claws into you. Number 2, cash means seen. So proof of funds in their account, plus confirm no mortgage, no related sale, and have this confirmed to you by your estate agent before the house comes off the market. You don't even stop viewings until it's all done. Number 3, survey booked in the first few days of the sale being agreed. For cash buyers, we want it booked within 48 hours of the offer being accepted. For mortgage buyers, get the mortgage application submitted within a week to get the wheels in motion. I make it a condition of accepting their offer. Number 4 is like milestones, not vibes. We want solicitors instructed within 2 working days. We want searches ordered within the week. Like I said, mortgage applied for in week 1. Things in the diary and being chased consistently by your agent because you want problems flushed out early while your other buyers are still warm. And 5, judge the position, not the number. So a higher, riskier offer from someone with red flags isn't automatically the right thing to go with because it's more money. It's not automatically the wrong thing to go with because they're waving red flags. It's always a trade-off and a best guess, an educated guess. And so run through these filters. How many flags is this buyer waving? Will they fall in line with that playbook? And what are my alternatives as well? And if we get this wrong, the cost is real. Like according to a report by Santander, over 500,000 sales fall through every year, costing sellers over 1,200 quid a time. So fall throughs are a disaster, but the good news is you're much more in control of it than you think. So those are some of the red flags I've used to spot buyers who shouldn't be trusted, and a bit of how to handle them when you've got no choice. But the in-depth version, 4-step process we use when we're about to engage with a buyer that helps stop sales fall through is right here. Watch this next if you want to learn more because it might save you money and months of stress and frustration and disappointment. So I hope you found this useful and good luck.